Mr. Ron Waples, or alias known as God.
Thanks, Hank. We don't really know each other that long. How long ago was it? 50-some years ago, I used to babysit you and Sandra. You were short and had hair then. Now you have hair. It's a real honor to be here tonight. And before I start, if I could say something to Paige and Paula, if you take a little advice from an old fellow that's been around, I'd just like to give you one little bit of advice, and I hope you look around and see all the friendly faces not here tonight to help you on. My wish for you, my wife and I's wish for you, is that may the best day of your past be the worst day of your future. And I mean that from my heart. One of the first things they said to me, and they asked me if I'd speak, is said, keep it short, and they told Heck the same thing, and I said, at our size, that ought to be easy. I started to work for Keith when I was 15 years old. I'm sure everybody's heard that before. And the lesson started very early when I started working there. And I'm going to just tell 2 or 3 things that happened, and I'm going to fast forward a few years in between. But somebody came up with the idea that Keith was going to get a jog cart to train 2 horses at the same time. And we were training at Coldwater Fairgrounds then at an 18-stall barn, and the one end was just a garage door. So we had 2 horses, if I remember right, maybe keep it correct me on these, but I think there were a Big Bend Bull, which the elevator didn't go to the top floor, and Friar White had issues. So we got them in the double cart there, and Keith's behind holding the lines, and Murray's job was to hold on to the horses, and my job was to throw open the door. So I thought I could handle that all right, so Murray said to Keith, maybe you should get on the jog cart. Turn them loose, I'll be all right, he said. Murray looks at me, he said, swing open the door. I swung open the door as fast as I could, and you know, those 2 horses, when they bolted out of that barn, as I say, neither one of them were very intelligent. It just reminded me a bit of a flag waving in the breeze. But I watched him go to the racetrack, and by the time he got to the racetrack, he's on the jogger, got them under control, and I learned that very good that day, because years ago something like that happened to me, and it saved my butt. So that was, I guess, one of the first lessons anyway. And Keith, all the years I worked for him, I think he did a great job of keeping me grounded. You know, it seemed like if I accelerated at something, which I did once in a while, not too often, but he always seemed to have a way to ground me. The first night I won 3 races, he wasn't driving that night for some reason, I can't remember that now. I think there was a horse called Wally Spencer, a horse called Dixie Wick, and I think a horse called Sailor Mon, but I'm not sure about that horse. But anyway, at that time, nobody had any driving rooms in the paddock or anything like that. You just had your colors and everything in the barn and in the tack room there. So I'm coming back after the 3-race win, and I mean, I'm on cloud 9. I mean, you're going to have to make an appointment to talk to me. So I walk in the barn, and I go in the tack room and take my colors off, and Keith's sitting in there having an adult beverage, which not often he did, but once in a while he would. And I can't remember who's in there with him, but I'm thinking he's going to say, you know, great job, you know, drove good, you drove bad, whatever else. So he didn't really say a word, and I started taking my colors off, and I didn't want to say anything, you know, he ain't going to say anything, I ain't going to say anything. So then he says to me, he said, for God's sakes, Ronnie, go and check them water pills, or some of them water pills are dry, just go check the water pills. One of the greatest things that happened to me, between me and Keith, we go to lunches a lot of times. Sometimes liquid lunches, sometimes liquid and food lunches, but a lot of lunches, and one thing I hope to God we get to do it many more times, was it's always enjoyable to me. And this one day at Greenwood, we went down to this high-class place that Keith had picked out. I think it was called the Simcoe Hotel. This is one of the higher class places in Toronto. They was even so high class they had in the men's journal they had the trough. So we're talking about a high class place. So we're sitting in there and having a couple of beverages, and in walked this lady, and I think she had a drinking problem, I'm not sure. But she had this tray of dolls, little dolls she made out of something, I don't know what they're made of now. she happened to make the mistake of sitting at the next table to us. So we get into negotiations about these dolls, and I think she was asking $4.60 a doll, and if we took them all, we could get them for a little bit less. So after 2 hours of heavy negotiations, Keith Brown bent that woman down to $4.45 for each of these dolls. That was 2 hours of negotiation, so like she had a drinking problem, we didn't, we were drinking all right. So we get out of there and we're going back to Greenwood, and I said to Keith, I said, no, that was quite a thing, that poor lady, you beat her down like that. But I said, there is not a good end to this story. He said, what do you mean? I said, we left the dolls back at the hotel. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, and this story's got kind of a two parts to it, and I'm never going to tell this story again, and when I get to the second part, if you'll agree with me that I shouldn't tell this story again. One time when we go to some of these lunches, we had all different kinds of conversations. And this one day we get into a conversation, he said, Ronnie, I looked after my money better than you have looked after yours. And I said, yes, Keith, I worked here for quite a while. I seen how well you looked after your money. You looked after your money real well. So we're going to fast forward here to the day I got inducted into the Goshen Hall of Fame, which is one of the proudest moments of my life. And I think that something was comparable to that, as good or maybe almost as good as when I seen Keith and Eileen drive down, because that was just, I didn't tell them that at that time, and I appreciate if you didn't tell them now, but that's just what I felt anyway. So anyway, they got up and they asked me to say a few words, and I told them all the credit that I ever had. I deserved to go to Keith and Murray because they were the ones that put up with me. And then I told them that, I definitely wasn't overpaid, that I learned a lot there. And they said Keith was eating and he never missed a beat. He just said, God, I thought I was paying him what he was worth. There's one place that I know I got Keith beat, and this is hands down. There's no question about it. Don't even have to take a vote on it. I just know this for a fact. And this is, I'll bet there's been a lot more people ask me what it was like working for Keith Waples than ask Keith, what was it like having Ronnie work for you? Thank you. One more thing I might say is just my dear old friend Billy O'Donnell up there. That's President Billy O'Donnell. I went through Spring Hill, Nova Scotia, and that sign up there says, Home of Anne Murray. Don't say Home of Anne Murray and Bill O'Donnell. It says Home of Anne Murray. I'd just like to make that clear. Thank you.